Oh boy. Here I go again, forgetting to get the camera ready. It's morning. I don't hate mornings, but I'm not fully awake. Here we go. And I need to grab a book real quick. nymza, the organization that Charles Delshow talked about. All right, where are my books? Ah. I've got them mixed up. Here we go. Walter Bosley brought my attention to nymza. The Flying Machine. Here we go. It's in volume 2 of his Empire of the Wheel trilogy. Friends from Sonora. I'd better hold it up long enough for you to read it. Empire of the Wheel 2, Friends from Sonora by Walter Bosley. Hi, Cavelli. Yeah, I'm up on a strange day. This is Thursday, July 13, 2023. And yesterday, for some reason, my stream just kind of... hi, HB. HB is on the bus. Yeah, Cave is Jason. I spelled it Cavelli because it's morning and I'm tired and my eyes aren't focusing. Well, yesterday my stream ended. I don't know why. Everything on my end looked fine, but the people in the chat room said it froze up and ended. So today I'll talk about nymza. And Charles Delshow drew all these amazing pictures in his journals of flying machines in the late 1800s. The Sonora Aero Club, the Friends from Sonora, flying machines. Walter Bosley's Empire of the Wheel, Volume 2. Well, Charles Delshow said he knew these people. They had working flying machines, and they were sponsored by a German organization called nymza, nymza. And people trying to decipher what nymza stood for often, excuse me, jumped to the conclusion that NY was New York. But Walter Bosley, seeing as how it was a German organization, 95 out already. Oh, poor Jason's in Arizona. It's 70 here, but don't worry, it'll get into the 80s. Well, anyway, a German organization would not be headquartered in New York. They might have an affiliate or a subsidiary in New York, but the flying club was in California. Oh, now I got hiccups. Sorry. I'm doing this kind of on the fly. I wasn't planning this one. Well, nymza, let me see. We even have a sometime listener who calls himself nymza Flugzeug, nymza flying machine. Well, Walter couldn't find a German word that starts with the letter Y. That's true. It's true that there are no German words in the dictionary that most college students use that start with Y unless they're borrowed from other languages. For the sound of the letter Y, German uses our letter J. Yacht, like youth, Jugend, Jugend. But a German organization would not, especially not a Prussian. You see, there wasn't really much of a Germany. The Prussians under Kaiser Wilhelm were unifying Germany in the late 1800s. One of the many wars that people kind of forget when they're talking about how peaceful the 1800s were compared to the 1900s, the 20th century with its world wars. Well, anyway, they would not make that substitution. However, there is a letter in German that can look like a Y and sound like a Y when Y is used as a vowel and not a consonant, and that is the letter U with an upsilon, the two little dots that go over the vowel to change its sound slightly. The Germans call the letter U upsilon, as in the Greek letter U, which Americans usually write as Y, as in psychiatry. Many medical terms and technical terms, we changed the Greek U to an English Y, and the Germans would have done the same. Rather than a U with an umlaut. U as in Uber, which is German for super. Now, with all due respect to Walter Bosley and Joseph P. Farrell, Dr. Farrell, whom Walter consulted about this letter Y, could it be a J? Well, Walter he might have studied German, at least to speak it. He was an agent of some sort. He was in the military. Joseph Farrell learned Wisconsin German, spoken in the northern Midwest, like Wisconsin, Minnesota, Montana. German immigrants who have their own dialect of German. And yes, the letter J can sound like Y in German, but the Prussians would not write it that way. And who am I to say so? Well, I have a degree in the German language. I managed to study 3 years of German in the course of obtaining a 2-year degree in the German language. And in high school, as Philip K. Dick, my husband, pointed out, I studied Greek, the Greek of Plato. He thought it was Koine Greek that I studied, but not really. It's close. Koine is the commonly spoken Greek of New Testament times. Well, Second Temple and New Testament times. Plato's Greek was a little more sophisticated, but again, Greek then is not Greek now. The Greek spoken today sounds like Spanish, and many of the words are quite similar. What the is? That's my, I can't find it. It's a cowlick sticking up. Oh man. See, this is like me looking in a mirror. I can't figure out where that thing is to pat it down. I'll have to. It's going to bug me. It's going to bug me terribly. Where'd I put it? I have a hairbrush around here. Unless it's a cat toy again. Tora, what did you do with my hairbrush? Oh, to heck with it. I'll get that later. It should have bugged me, though. Well, anyway, I learned to read German and Friesisch, the language of Friesland, which is sort of a hybrid between German and Dutch. I read entire novels in the German language. I read Kafka's Metamorphosis in German. I read a short novel called Viele heißen Kain about a Belgian lawyer whose brother is like Cain of Cain and Abel. Well, anyway, the Y should be a U. And I think it's N, it's not, I can't remember what Walter called it again. Well, I think N is for new, Neue. Y would be the letter U for Uber, super. M for mention. And the last two, Z and A, stand for a corporation. So what we have is New Supermen Incorporated. The Prussians, drawing on the work of Darwin, are trying to build a superior race, and they are one of the antecedents of Hitler's madness. Yes, Übermensch, HB. Übermenschen is the plural, Superman. Tora, you're bugging me. Come here and say hi to your adoring fans. Okay? Now here's your treat. I can't reach them. They're on the other side. There. Hold still. I can't give you treats if I can't find you. Okay, so they're the New Superman Incorporated. And of course, they're flying. Hi, Philip. I was just doing a quickie and you missed it all. This has been cooking in my brain for some time. Walter Bosley's Empire of the Wheel 2, Friends from Sonora with the Flying Club, and Walter Delshaw's drawings and descriptions of flying machines. I'm having trouble finding a link that isn't Wikipedia. Oh, here's one. You have to download the PDF. Oh, you can read the abstract. Brett Cohen at the Institute for Advanced GABA Studies has a paper about the flying ships. I'll give you that link. There was some strange gas, NB gas, that powered these ships. This was before the Wright brothers. Well, I would love to fly, but I hate landing. Landing is dangerous. Takeoffs are kind of dangerous, but landing is the big, oh my God, for me. But flying is cool. Anyway, the Germans of the late 1800s would not use the letter Y as a substitute for the letter J, even though in German the letter J sounds like our letter Y. So there were around the time of Darwin, Charles Darwin. Let me get Darwin's. Okay, Darwin, the English, naturalist, geologist, biologist, born 1809, died 1882. Evolution and all that. And he was, now, Darwin most certainly did not intend to inspire eugenics, killing inferior people and stuff like that. But the Nazis definitely were inspired by Darwin's thesis of survival of the fittest. In fact, Hermann Goering's father was a doctor, a physician in Africa, helping to encourage the native tribes to slaughter each other so that only the fittest would survive. Nice guy. So we get nymza, we get Walter Bosley interpreting it as referring to flying machines. And Amt, A for Amt would be office. Well, okay, but his interpretation of the Y as a letter J gives him something like yog, which is hunting. Jaeger, a common last name among Germans, they just add an E to, well, in English we go Yaeger. In German, the A would have the two little dots above it, the umlaut. Jaeger is hunter. Jagen is to hunt. I don't think so. I think it's much more sinister than an arrow club. I think it's the beginnings of forming a master race. And of course, there's, I'm blanking on the name, but I can get it. The philosopher. There's a play by George Bernard Shaw called Man and Superman. But that isn't what I was looking for. Nietzsche, good old German philosopher, gave us the concept of man and Superman. Übermensch. Of course, the link is for Wikipedia. Okay, now when did Nietzsche live? Oh, his name is incredibly difficult to spell. Born in 1844, died in 1900 in Weimar, Germany. Nietzsche, oh my. Even having studied German, Niet, his name is weird. Zsch. Sche. Oh my. Of course, Nietzsche didn't exactly mean the same thing as the Nazis. Bernard Shaw almost certainly did not. He was looking back on Nietzsche. But anyway, Nietzsche was a philosopher that Phil often read. When Phil felt depressed, he said he'd read Nietzsche because Nietzsche's work was so depressing that he actually felt better. Wish I knew what I'd done with my hairbrush. Oh, Tora's having a fit because the kittens want to come in and eat her food. There are actually 4 kittens dropped here by a stray cat, and I'm trying to tame them so they can get homes. Oh, really? HB says that for the last 20 years of his life, Nietzsche was in bed, mad, in other words, insane. Well, anyway, so having studied German and achieved a degree in German, I've lost most of my vocabulary, but I can still hold a superficial conversation with German tourists. I just can't turn the letter Y of nymza into a J. It's a U, an upsilon. In reciting the alphabet that Germans call the letter G, upsilon. The Greek U, which we write as a Y. And there's lots of reasons why the Germans might have used the Y to represent the U, not the least of which is that it is an upsilon. Darn thing won't stay lit. Now I've scraped my hand on something. Well, anyway, since my stream just kind of, I don't know, it wasn't Verizon this time, it must have been YouTube. I must have said some keyword that they had to inspect before they would let me continue. Don't you just love AI? I was talking about AI and the elites who want to take over the world. Apparently, the people of the Sonora Aero Club, described in Walter's book, Empire of the Wheel 2, decided that nymza was too what's the word? Well, the goals of nymza were just not something they wanted to be a part of, even though nymza had funded their aeroships, their flying machines. The goals of nymza were just not acceptable. You might even say evil. Which again leads me to, they were trying to develop a super race of Übermenschen. Using Darwin's survival of the fittest and Nietzsche's man and Superman. And it wasn't long before Margaret Sanger founded Planned Parenthood with the express purpose of reducing the number of black and brown babies and other inferior reproduction by inferior people like those with disabilities or low IQs. By the way, I've had IQ tests of various sorts. The ones where you work puzzles or detect patterns are at least measuring something real. But the Stanford Binet, one of the first IQ tests, if you have a good vocabulary and some basic math skills, you can ace that thing. You don't have to be a genius to score as one. And one time I was invited to take this special test for an elite group within Mensa, the organization for geniuses. They have a special group within them of those who score even higher than all the other geniuses. I didn't take them up on it. Yes, Angus, I agree. Hi, Angus. I've aced all kinds of IQ tests, and I'm poor as a church mouse. Every month it's a struggle to get the bills paid. I don't know. Well, I could make a killing in the stock market if I ever had money to invest or the will to do so. But frankly, I consider the stock market gambling. I used to do okay gambling. I'd play blackjack or 21, and at least break even every time because I knew how to play the game. But I never had high stakes to wager, so this was like 1976, I think. I'd walk into a casino in Reno with $20, play cards all night, buy breakfast, and come home with $20 or maybe $21 or $22. I don't do that anymore. Angus says some of the wealthiest people he's known who didn't inherit are otherwise not terribly bright, but they are better at making money. Well, I have a feeling that a great deal of it is luck, and an even deal more of it is whom do you know? And I never had great social skills. I've been, as a child, they said I was borderline autistic. And rather immature emotionally for my age. Well, probably true, but it was learned behavior for the most part. Being raised by the devil's sister didn't encourage social skills. Yes, Angus, autistic. You too, huh? Well, originally, autism was an affliction of schizophrenics who had degenerated, possibly from the treatments they were given, medications in particular. Come on, camera, hold still. It won't go where I want to put it. Yep, 70s and 80s. My first diagnosis was 1970. Anyway, during recess, yeah, I liked to get out and play a little bit, but I also liked to sit and read a book. When I got home from school, I'd grab a book and hide in my room to read it because if Mom saw me reading or doing my homework, she'd force me to go outside and play, and I didn't want to. I always had at least one friend, though. Oh, poor Angus couldn't do the counting money thing and working out math problems. I could do math, but I was slow. And the way the public schools have been arranged as long as I can remember, you have 45 minutes to do math, and then when the time is up, you have to go on to social studies. And I couldn't finish the math in 45 minutes. That included, of course, a lecture from the teacher and question and answer period. So it wasn't the whole 45 minutes looking at the book and writing out the problems. Yeah, I process numbers in strange ways myself. There's a book, and I don't remember the author's name. I thought it was Isaac Asimov, but it isn't. But anyway, it's called From Zero to Infinity, and it explains some of the tricks you can use that make math easier to do. For example, when you multiply by 9, like 9 times 2, I know it's 18 because I memorized it, but if you don't know, you take the 2 and subtract 1. So you have the first digit is 1. And then the second number plus the first number has to add up to 9. Every time you multiply by 9, the 2 or more digits in the answer will add up to 9. So 1 and 8 is 9, so it's 18. 9 times 3, 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 and 7 is 9, so it's 27. And so on. Angus has the Steve Flansburgh Math Magic book, had it in college. He advocates counting 0 through 9 the Mayan way. Well, I don't know that way. And of course, when you multiply by 10, your answer will simply be adding a 0 to the other number. When you multiply by 5, your answer will end in either 5 or 0. 5 and 5 is 10. Anyway, yeah, I can do math, as I said. I'm just slow. But I took 2 years in high school, 2 years of algebra, a year of trigonometry, and a year of geometry. Yeah, our schools are about line up and march, so we can become supermen. Oh, and physical fitness became a big thing. If you couldn't run 50 yards in under 10 seconds, you couldn't pass from the 3rd grade to the 4th grade, or was it 4th grade to 5th grade? Yeah, it was 4th grade to 5th grade. Yep, the Prussians. The nymza people were Prussians. Yeah, bells dividing the hours. And we had to memorize the different bells and buzzers for fire drills, earthquake drills, and atomic bomb drills. Well, the atomic bomb drill was easy because this huge horn over City Hall would go off and you'd hear it all over the town. Thanks for coming by, HB. John Dewey. Oh, of the Dewey Decimal System. Yeah, influenced by the Prussian system. I've been on for almost 40 minutes, and this was just going to be a quick discussion of nymza. But you guys have got me going. I still prefer solitude. I'm never lonely, especially not with my wonderful chat room. I don't need to socialize with people. I joined the Lions Club. Oh, Angus got to go to Montessori from grades 1 to 3. Yeah, my baby sister went to Montessori, and my son went to Montessori, grades 1 through 3. And then again for a short time. I got to take a quick break. I'll be right back, so don't go away. Lord. Okay. Sorry, but my guts are unhappy. Must be something I ate. Let's get Tora some food while I'm thinking of food. Here, Tora. There you go. Look at. What is it with cats? When they want to follow you, they get in front of you, so you can't move. Yeah. In the Montessori schools, at least in the early grades, um, they turn children loose with what looks like a bunch of toys, but they're actually teaching tools. Maria Montessori, who founded those Montessori schools, was given the task of educating inferior students, which is kind of relevant to Man and Superman. Oh, my poor throat. And her, today we'd say mentally challenged students, actually ended up doing better academically than the genius. She engaged all the senses. The letters of the alphabet would be cut out in sandpaper and glued to wooden blocks so they could feel them, pick them up, carry them around. Time for another cigarette. Anyway, I never had that opportunity myself. My little sister was the entitled one, but Mom did shove me into a high school for gifted children. They were studying us. And eventually wanted to study my DNA and my husband's DNA and my son's DNA. Another confirmation, or at least supporting evidence, that they'd been studying both Phil and me for some time because we were geniuses. I just wanted to have a child and raise him right. And write some books along the way. Yeah, the children choose what they want to do in the early grades, at least, in order to comply with all the government regulations. By fourth grade and on, they have to work at certain subjects. But so these children walk into a classroom full of what to them look like toys. I just told my phone to quit disturbing me. And there's blocks and all kinds of stuff. They engage the whole body. It's kinetic. There have been studies, by the way, scientific studies in which children who couldn't read or were dyslexic were encouraged to get on their hands and knees and creep around. Crawling is on your belly. I always want to say crawl, though. Creeping is on hands and knees. to get more practice moving the head from side to side or seeing what's beside you. When we stand up and walk, we kind of lose that, and reading requires a side to side motion, if not of your head, then of your eyes. Hi, Viken. Once again, this is not my regular day, but I just had to come in. I woke up, I'd been playing a YouTube video, a playlist. So I woke up hearing lecture 2 by, oh, what's his name? Oh, gosh. What is his name? Oh, well, he's an Anglican bishop, and pre COVID, he gave these Giffords lectures on mostly history, but also the New Testament and Paul. He's kind of an expert on Paul and Paul's writing, life and writing. But he was talking about Albert Schweitzer et al., who thought the world was coming to an end because Wagner, the Ring trilogy, the Götterdämmerung, the Twilight of the Gods. And I suddenly thought of nymza. Yeah, public schools suck. I was not a terribly good student. I passed every grade except they wanted to hold me back in 4th grade because I couldn't name all the presidents in order, American presidents, and I couldn't place the American states on a map and name the state capitals. Well, that's what happens when the way you learn it is the teacher says, go home and learn it. And your mother is the devil's sister, and you don't even dare to tell her, I'm supposed to learn this. Well, over that summer, when I was sucked at times tables too. Over the summer, mom had promised the teacher she'd teach me that stuff and I could go on to 5th grade. So every once in a while, apropos of nothing, she'd name a state and I'd have to come up with the capital. I don't remember all of them for sure. But yeah, I've got, of course, Sacramento, California. California born and raised. Olympia. That's Washington. Oregon is not Portland, I don't think. Maybe it is. I'm not sure. But on the test, I put, the usual New York, New York, Jersey City, New Jersey, Las Vegas, Nevada. They were all wrong. Oh, Beacon went to school for the free meals. Yeah, well, we didn't have free meals at our schools. When my son was in school, they offered free meals, but it was, oh, you get a free meal, you go over in that line and get the free meal food. And then all the kids would tease the kids who were poor and had to get the free lunch. That's sadistic. Angus was always strong in geography, iconic for someone so poorly traveled. Yeah. Well, I used to go through the atlas, Not the academic atlas, just the one we had at home. Fascinated by all these maps. I love maps, but they don't really tell you what's in the country. Anyway, yeah. So nymza, to my mind, is being a Prussian inspired organization. It's a precursor to the Nazis. And Hitler really was the logical outcome of the Prussian takeover of Germany. The Prussians were the military. Prussia originally was most of Poland and part of East Germany. There was no Germany until the late 1800s when Kaiser Wilhelm unified all these duchies, these independent small countries. And I've been meaning to refresh my memory on just how how many battles were fought. Angus hasn't been out of California since 1994. What's my phone want? Oh, I have an incoming call and it's potential spam. Should I answer it? Under Bismarck, they had the first welfare program and healthcare system. Interesting. Well, anyway, I was getting to Margaret Sanger, who, now I'm sure Darwin didn't mean to inspire eugenics, but she founded Planned Parenthood, inspired by Darwin's um, thesis of survival of the fittest, with the specific intent of reducing the number of inferior babies, including, so certain women should not have children if they had dark skin or if they weren't intelligent enough to suit her. And even in the 20th century, many women, especially those in prison or in poorhouses, in the United States and some parts of Europe, were sterilized with often without their knowledge and certainly without their permission, so they wouldn't produce more inferior babies. Now, me, for myself, just observing the people around me, I'm amazed at how many people have children they don't deserve. People who are not necessarily geniuses have children who very well could be. And the children who are extra smart are usually the ones who misbehave at school because they're bored out of their minds. Hi, Nisha. It hasn't been that long. Did they have the cricket finals yet? Anyway, like I've seen total scumbags have children who are so good and so upright and hardworking and friendly. And I've seen parents who you would think were just wonderful people, and their children end up crackheads and sex fiends and various kinds of criminals. You just never know. Life like is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. To quote, what's his name? The Tom Hanks movie. Why can't I remember his name? Another one is stupid is as stupid does. What? Forrest Gump. Thank you, Angus. Run, Forrest, run. I love that movie. I'm going to have to watch it again. I recently watched A Man Called Otto. Very good movie. And there's a cat in it. Bubba. Oh, yeah, Bubba. And Bubba's mom saying, "Are you stupid or something?" Because he's giving the family all the money because Bubba owned half the business. Okay. Forrest Gump was a real person? You've lost me, Angus. Oh, Hanks, Tom Hanks. I gotcha. So, Tom Hanks was your neighbor for a while. Oh, you lived in Brentwood? I could never afford to live in Brentwood. Well, A Man Called Otto, also Tom Hanks. It's about an old man who's lonely and sad because his wife died and they have no children. And it's funny, but it's also has its sad moments. Now he tries suicide, but he fails, and it's funny. Even though you know the rope is going to break when he hangs himself, his response is unexpected, and I laughed out loud. Anyway, he decides to help his neighbors, and they end up helping him. And he suddenly has all these friends. Well, not suddenly, but over time. And he gets a cat. Yeah, well, I've come to realize that we were never as poor as Mom said we were. She never ran out of coffee, cigarettes, and alcohol, but she did run out of money to buy us food and clothing. Me and my brothers. Now, my baby sister, the entitled one, actually was not all that deprived. She was upset because Mom made her dresses on the sewing machine instead of getting her store-bought crap. Those homemade dresses were far superior to anything you could get at Sprouse Ritz, the dime store, where only if there was a special occasion Mom would buy me a dress. It happened twice that I remember, maybe 3 times. I think it was twice in 18 years. But most of my clothes were hand-me-downs from either my brother, because I didn't have an older sister, or the neighbor's daughter. And on the few occasions when Mom sewed some clothing for me, they were the jiffy patterns where you just zap it out and it's like wearing a tent. Mom would go out and party. She had money to go out and party, but not for food for her children. I would have starved to death, But my brother got a job at a grocery store, and he would come home with the damaged packages that they sold him real cheap at the end of the week. That's where I got my food. And we were not that poor. My father was an accountant. Now, he wasn't, setting the world on fire, but he made a decent living. Oh, wow. Well, at least your friend had money to buy a little food at the store. I was supposed to do all the housework, and I never got an allowance. Dad would give me 25 cents on a, 5 days a week, the school days, and I never had enough to eat in the cafeteria. It cost 45 cents, plus you had to buy your beverage. I'd take my quarter and buy either milk or juice and bring a sack lunch, which was basically a bologna sandwich or a peanut butter sandwich. Yeah, well, I survived. Viken, I'm sorry for the little girl that I was, but I survived. My brother Steve and I are the survivors. We went through hell and came out the other end. And unlike those who failed, we trust in God and Jesus Christ to carry us through. Like that meme you'll see, like, God, where were you when I was going through all this stuff? And God says, I was carrying you in my arms. And it'll usually show a beach where the wet sand has only one pair of footprints. Oh, poor Angus. The neighbor's girl moved in with them and ate all the food. And Mom took in strays, distant relatives and friends of theirs, and she treated them very well. She tried to get me to hook up with this one boy who had moved in with us, and I still laugh about it. Mom would, chew me out, rip me a new one, tell me how awful I was because I turned him off. Well, Mom's dead now. Mom, if you're listening, he was gay. So what is nymza? I think it's the new Ubermenschen Corporation, new Supermen. Walter Bosley thinks it's something to do with the flying machines being some sort of military thing. Jagdflugzeug, flying hunters. It really doesn't make sense in German. And the reason I can overrule him, at least on my end, to my mind, is I studied German as the Germans speak it, not as the people of Wisconsin speak it. It really is a quite different dialect. I have a degree in the German language, and I studied some Greek, and they got the letter Y from Greek. The Y is an upsilon, a U, not a J, as Walter Bosley speculated. But he's on the right track, and you really should read his book. Empire of the Wheel 2, Friends from Sonora, Walter Bosley. You can get his books on Amazon now, but he would prefer it if you'd get them at his site, Lost Continent Library. So I'll put that in the chat. Lost Continent Library. I don't have the URL, so, but you can Google it. A bunch of Prussian eugenists who want Superman, a super race. Wow, a few years ago, Beacon saw a triangle craft hovering over him and some friends. Well, I didn't see any triangles. I saw a globe, a sphere, a great big orange ball, reddish orange, red orange, like the crayon, red orange. It's amazing how many of us have seen UFOs and never talked about it. We don't want people to think we're crazy. For years, I was wanting to bring it up with my older brother because he was there when I saw it. But I didn't because I was thinking of, well, you know, if I brought it up, I couldn't be sure just joining me in a common delusion. But one day he brought it up. I was like, oh my God, it was real. I didn't imagine it. I didn't dream it. I didn't just, as a very young child, discuss it when we were young children. It happened. Yeah, senators and congressmen. Oh, and what I was bringing up yesterday was Solar Warden. You need to Google Solar Warden. The secret space program started around 1980 under President Reagan and in cooperation with the English. Apparently, we do have spacecraft patrolling the Earth's orbit looking for alien enemies. Now, we don't know whether there are any alien enemies, but we're prepared for them if there are. Angus saw a saucer that had military insignia and said U.S. Air Force, but it was a saucer. Little one, 15 feet diameter at most. Well, Phil had a friend who told him that he had seen a flying saucer land in the jungles of Africa somewhere. And when it landed, it put out a tripod, 3 legs. So it was off the ground, standing on these 3 legs. The door opened, a ladder came down, and some very human men in black clothing, head to toe black, came out of the saucer, and the friend was so frightened he kind of ran away. Hid for a while and then got out of there. Amazing. Yeah, well, if people in the United States had flying machines before the Wright brothers, and there's also this story that Walter Bosley talks about. I've forgotten the specifics, but during the Civil War, a man approached the U.S. government. He thought they could use his flying machine. So that's the 1860s, early 1860s. A flying machine, not a balloon. We've had, well, humans have had hot air balloons for centuries, if not thousands of years. That's probably how the Nazca lines were um, visible to the people who made them. These images of spiders and monkeys and things. Now, it's not that difficult to make these images in the desert sand without being able to go up in the air and see them. You draw it on a graph, a sheet of paper divided into small squares, and you translate the image on that graph to the ground carefully. But to see them, they're so huge you need to go up in the air. And there are some high mesas or hills, if not mountains, nearby. But they probably went up in their hot air balloons to see them. And when a very important, prominent person, something like a king or an emperor, died, they'd put the body in a hot air balloon and send it out over the ocean. So we know they had hot air balloons. But what nymza had was craft that used some special gas to propel them. Very interesting. From the drawings I've seen, it looks as if they used fans and sails. So they were kind of like ships up in the air. And they might have been partially lighter than air, like a blimp or a dirigible, but they were not hot air balloons. And some of the people on the aircraft claimed that they could visit South America and come back in less than a full day at a time when it took a long time to walk or ride a horse or a mule that distance, weeks and months. Okay, so nymza, the new Superman Corporation. That's what I think it is. I'm not really certain about the Z. Walter makes it out to be Zugflug, which literally means a flying train. That it kind of means aircraft. But I'm not convinced. Could be. New Superman Aircraft Incorporated or Aircraft Office. But the way to travel in the late 1800s was by train. And a Zug is a train. Who knows? We might, probably won't ever know exactly what Charles Delshow meant when he wrote nymza. But we might someday. nymza didn't end just because the Sonora Aero Club in California split away from them. They had other proteges. Angus thinks dirigibles will come back for regional travel and transportation, at least for goods. I wish they would come back. They're awesome. And they can run on electricity. Well, they have to have huge batteries. A dirigible is basically a rigid blimp. A blimp, like the Goodyear blimp, is just a balloon, but it has a motor with a fan that moves it around and steers it. The dirigible has a solid frame, not solid in the sense of a sheet of metal. It's beams and supports and stuff, but they're rigid and they are propelled by fans. Angus read John McPhee's book, The Deltoid Pumpkin Seed, published in the early 70s. Yeah, they can be made much more aerodynamic, but they don't have to be. But they are very economical and basically environmentally sound. Their fans can run on the evil fossil fuels or batteries providing electricity. But these nymza craft apparently ran on some kind of exotic technology. There's also a novel by Dean Ing, The Big Lifters, about dirigibles replacing railroads and teamsters, etc. Well, for short distances, it's probably most sensible to use a big semi truck. Probably. But if you want to go across the country, instead of laying down paved roads and steel railroad tracks and stuff like that, it's probably better to take it up into the air on a balloon, basically a balloon. We'll see if that happens, but I have little faith in the government to exercise common sense. For example, I'm not supposed to have a compost box because pollution, environment, air quality. It'll give off a small amount of methane while the table scraps are rotting and turning into wonderful fertile soil. So their solution, have the government pick up all your food waste and they'll compost it. They'll take everybody's food and make a huge compost box. How is that better? To concentrate all that methane in one big place instead of scattering it all over in small amounts that are easily dissipated. Beacon, England has thousands of miles of wasted water canals. Oh, yeah, I've seen them on Midsummer Murders, I think, or maybe it was Inspector Lewis. People living in barges on the canals. Oh, yeah, they have to expend fossil fuels to pick up and transport the compost when the government does it all in one spot, one big, huge compost heap. if I make the compost right here, nobody has to burn any fossil fuels to bring it to me. It's ridiculous. We are being governed by idiots. I guess their philosophy is out of sight, out of mind. Or if the government does it, it's okay. Back to Forrest Gump. Are you stupid or something? These bureaucrats don't know anything. It's better to buy solar panels made by slave labor using raw materials mined by slave labor and child labor, because it isn't happening here in our country. It's over there, out of sight, out of mind. Oh yeah, backyard burners, Angus. We called them incinerators. We still had one when I was a young child, but it had been made illegal to use it. People used to burn their trash at the end of the day in this very safe, usually concrete or plaster incinerator. Now, not all of the trash would burn, but the stuff that would burn went into the incinerator. And even now, on some of the British TV shows that I get to see, of course, they're 20 years old or more, they'll have people just build a bonfire in their yard and burn things. They decided in the 1950s that the reason Los Angeles had so much smog was that women burned their trash every evening and it put smoke in the air. So they outlawed it, and we still had smog. So they began smog control of automobiles, and that did help quite a bit. Getting rid of incinerators did nothing about the smog. When I was young, you could not stand near a parked car if the engine was running. That stuff would kill you. Of course, you couldn't bear to stay close to the car long enough for it to kill you. It was so nasty. Now, the people have tried to commit suicide by running the car inside a closed garage, and they can't do it. It doesn't put out enough smog to kill them. How many, Deacon says, how many council workers does it take to change a light bulb? At least 31 to supervise, 1 to make tea, and 1 to do nothing. Oh, yeah. You should watch the Caltrans, the Department of Transportation, filling a pothole. There's a truck driver, there's a guy with a shovel, and there's 2 supervisors watching them, and a third guy who's learning how to use a shovel. Third, fifth, 5 people. And the pothole's less than a foot in diameter. My water's empty. I'll be right back. Water. Got my water. Now, Caltrans is more inefficient than ever. Yeah, they used to fix the landslides in Malibu really fast because rich people live there. Well, even when they do fix the potholes here in the mountains, the next winter when the snowplow goes through, all the potholes come back, the patches don't last. Well, I will tell you, in the 70s and through part of the 80s, I used to visit family up in Napa, Northern California, not far from Sacramento. And their highways, the freeways here in Southern California just have something like a fence, a barrier in the center between the traffic going different directions, which is why you often in a bad crash will see one of the cars jump the fence onto the wrong side of the road as it gets smashed up. Up there's these huge fields of grass and trees and bushes and flowers in between the two sides of the freeway. If they need to expand it to add more lanes, they don't have to build a bridge over the surface streets. They just take part of the center divider. And along the sides of the freeway, instead of concrete walls and ugly concrete warehouses and stuff, they have cow pastures. On their nature trails in their national parks and forests, they have different colored pebbles. Like this color of pebble means you're going to go see a redwood tree, and that color pebbles means you're going to see the blackberry vines or whatever. Here, most of our nature trails can't be used because they've eroded, or the brush has grown over them, or there was enough erosion that there's a big pile of dirt in your way. I mean, a big pile of dirt, and no funds to fix them. Once in a while, unpaid volunteers do some cleanup and repairs on our nature trails. Tora, knock it off. Knock it off. If you want treats, you have to say hi to your adoring fans again. Come on, say hello. Oh, you're heavy. You're a big girl. Look at you. Yes. Okay, hop down and I'll find your treats. Where'd they go? Did you snag them? Did you snag the baggie? Come on. Let's see. It ain't in the box. Where'd it go? What have I done with it? Oh, I think I popped it on. Yes. This is her smorgasbord. It's all the ends of bags of different flavors. Yeah, potpourri for you, kitty cat. Okay. All right. So, anyway, now you can tell when you're leaving California whether you're going into Arizona, Nevada, or Oregon. All of a sudden, the roads are so smooth and open and nice, and the lanes are actually wide enough for your car. Caltrans has actually made the lanes narrower so they can have more lanes for the traffic that we have. You cannot get around very well in California without a car. Now, I don't have a car. I can't afford to support one. Between the taxes and the price of gasoline. But I get rides from other people who still have cars. when I need to. Yeah, well, actually, California was settled with mass transportation by train. I rode on one of the last red cars from Los Angeles to Long Beach. I had never been on a train before, and it was decades before I was on one again. But the red cars used to take people from Los Angeles to Long Beach, where many people had jobs at the docks, loading and unloading cargo and stuff like that. And the trains were discontinued and replaced with buses. It's a big scandal. But that's what happened to Watts. Watts was a thriving community, and yes, it was basically a black ghetto, but they were middle class working people with good jobs, and they took the train to work and back home every day. Well, the buses had a schedule that could not get them to work on time and could not get them home at all. The buses stopped running before they got off work. And then Watts became poorer and poorer because they couldn't get to work. Well, the first riot, Angus, in Watts was in 1965 in August. And they had a right to be angry, but, oh yeah, Angus Compton as well. They had a right to be angry and to protest, but it turned into a free-for-all, burning buildings, looting stores, kind of like some things that have happened recently in the past 2 or 3 years. Yeah, my dad used to walk to work because it was close enough to walk. It was just a few blocks. I think 3 blocks, 2 or 3. So Mom could have the car. And the car was a 1940 Ford that Mom's father gave us. And this was in the 1960s. Hi, Howard. I'm winding down for the day. It's been an hour and a half, and I was just going to do 10 or 20 minutes. Yes, Angus, a car is a symbolic class thing that a lot of people who can walk to work will drive because they don't want to look like they don't own a car. Well, for me, it depends on how much I have to carry. I do have one of those old lady shopping carts. I push it around, but it isn't easy to get it through a door, especially these shop doors that are deliberately heavy and want to spring shut. I want a car just so if I need something I can't get locally, I can just go get it and not try to wrangle a ride from someone. The buses kind of work, but I can only carry so much in my arms on a bus. And they don't stop very close to my house, so I have to still carry all this stuff home. So quite often I depend upon delivery. I need to real quick send a text message to a friend. Speaking of rides. Where is that thingy? Oh, here it is. There. Actually, it's a Facebook Messenger message. Angus works from home. The little work that I manage to do, I do at home. Most of what I'm doing lately is selling my personal property, things I don't really need. I'm downsizing anyway because my house is tiny and I have too much stuff. And with the help from a friend, I'm selling some books from my personal library. So we'll see what happens. I'll get a few bucks. And of course, I do my own yard work because I can't pay anyone. And besides, every time I get someone to help, they do it wrong. They'll trim the cultivated plants and leave weeds. They'll throw out things that I'm working on. I do crafting and art and stuff like that, and I repair things that are broken, clean them up, and sell them. They'll throw those out and leave the absolute trash for me to deal with. So it just doesn't work out to ask for help with yard work, at least not in this neighborhood. Oh well, I'll live through it, but I'm still hurting from when it was the local Episcopal church volunteered to help with some badly needed maintenance and repairs on my house. They took a bunch of lumber, and this was before lumber prices went sky high, but it still cost me money. But they didn't see any reason why I should need lumber. Even the pieces I'd measured, cut to size, and painted disappeared, along with some curtain rods and picture frames. But all the trash was still lying on the ground. And when I complained, they decided they wouldn't do the other work that they had agreed to do for me. So I still have a roof that leaks. Oh, they ripped out my back porch because it was rotten. And the people who were supposed to replace it wouldn't do it. So this one person thought she'd be helpful and build me a porch. But it was built so wrong that it was pooling up water against the side of my house and damaging my house. So I had to get a man to rip it out. And that porch, every time it rained and the ground got muddy, the porch would start moving around. It would slide in the mud. It wasn't attached to anything. Howard, your boss wants you to cut back from 14 hours a day to 12. That's a long work day, Howard. You'll make less money, but you might be happier. When my son was deciding on a career, just barely 18, I told him, do what you love, and if it's right, the money will come. And he tried a few things before he settled down and got married and all that stuff. What he was best at was teaching martial arts. He worked under an outfit in Las Vegas run by his sensei, his teacher. Now, he'd had other teachers, but this was like the one he stuck with the longest. And he was training people who were becoming professional martial artists. Hi, Oswald. As I said a few minutes ago, I'm winding down. I'm at an hour and 40. Once again, nymza, I think, is the new Superman with their flying machines. Because the letter Y in German cannot be a J just because in English the letter Y is Y, and in German the letter J is Y. In German, the letter Y sounds like the letter U. They borrowed it from Greek for words like psychiatrist. Mostly scientific and technical terms, not for ordinary German words. Walter Bosley disagrees. He thinks it's a J and it has to do with the flying machines being Yog something. I can't remember. And the Z would be Zugflug, flying machine. I'll let, that could be. But the Y cannot be a J. It's a U. As in Übermenschen, Übermensch, Superman. Following Nietzsche's Man and Superman. So it's the beginnings of the Nazi philosophy of eugenics. Get rid of the inferior people. Hitler even allowed his niece, who was mentally challenged, to be euthanized, killed, because she was inferior. Ooh, Angus has been in street fights. Well, my son has worked security at concerts and in bars. And he isn't super tall. He knows what he's doing. He didn't just study karate. He didn't just study judo. He studied a whole bunch of different things. And quite a few of the moves they teach you on the oral exam, they'll ask you, and when is this move used? And the correct answer is only in the movies. What you really do is not what you see in the movies. Oh, Man in the High Tower. Howard, in America, it's High Castle. But yeah. The film is quite brutal and not really that close to the movie. But you will recognize some scenes. But it was so brutal that a couple episodes into season 2, I quit watching it. It was too awful. It was really bad. Hollywood just doesn't get Phil. True. Well, the original Total Recall got his sense of humor, and the original Blade Runner got his dark vision. But you need both. And Minority Report was really nothing like his story, except for the concept of pre crime. I think our wealthy. Yeah, I'd love to see Terry Gilliam do Ubik. He'd be perfect for Ubik. So much like Brazil. But he's old and tired, and he just did Don Quixote. The singing cereal box in Minority Report. Okay, that was kind of funny. But it was really nothing like his actual story. Quit, Tora. Quit it. You know the drill. Say hi to your adoring fans. Come on. Oh, she's purring. Sometimes purring means she's annoyed. All right, let me move the phone so I can put your treats down. There you go. So, let's see. I haven't actually watched Paycheck. I don't think I have. But two gems that are highly underrated would be Imposter and uh oh, what is the one with the um Second Variety. If you can find those movies, they're probably on Netflix or Amazon Prime or YouTube. Imposter and Second Variety are awesome. They don't have the huge budget for special effects, but they have some special effects, and they tell a good story. Yeah, YouTube has lots of his stories on audiobook for free. I've listened to some of them. Oh, at Sequentia recommends reading Sales Pitch, which would definitely deliver his stance on commercialism. Yeah, Sales Pitch and AutoFac, with the automatic factories that won't quit making plastic junk that nobody wants. Sound familiar? Walk into Walmart, or I guess you can't walk into Target now. What a shame. It was my favorite store. I don't care about beer. I don't drink beer. And as far as Cracker Barrel goes, I'm not afraid of a rainbow colored rocking chair. I think that was very tasteful. Go ahead and go to Cracker Barrel. Yeah, Second Variety sends shivers up and down your spine. Not from the blood and gore, but from the mental and emotional scene. Well, anyway, I've been on for an hour and 50. This was supposed to be 10 or 20 minutes because it isn't Wednesday. But yesterday, my stream just suddenly stopped for no reason. And I couldn't find any problem on my end, so I had to turn it off. So, uh, I thought I'd just do a supplement today and get into nymza. We are a ship of fools being piloted by an idiot. And we're headed toward, like Ulysses, Odysseus. We think we're headed home, but we have to get in between Scylla and Charybdis, the rocks and the whirlpool. Let's see, I think Scylla is the whirlpool and Charybdis is the rocks. And our ship is not being steered very well. So we might fall into the whirlpool or we might get smashed on the rocks. We need a better pilot. Tora quit. I have to go off now. I have to end my stream. Stevie Wonder is driving. He'd probably do a better job. Anyway, thank you all for listening and have a great day. And really, thank you all for chatting with me. You guys are awesome. Co-piloted by Ray Charles. Well, if you saw the Blues Brothers movie, I know Ray Charles would do a better job. When he started going blind as a child, his mother made him learn to get around without his sight, and he did amazing things with all his other senses. Okay, goodbye and God bless. Bye. Not yet. Let me read. I need to find out why my streams are not appearing on my channel page. Well, at Sequentia, look at the top, along the top, going side to side, and one of the choices is videos. Click on videos, and you should see more recent videos. Yeah, well, I don't get my alerts either, Veek, and I don't know what's up with them. I keep getting links to things I don't watch ever because they're pushing them. They probably pay YouTube to push their videos to the front. They're promoted. So I use a keyword and search for it. Sorry about that, but I'm not paying YouTube to promote these videos because I'm not monetized and I'm poor. And I'm just glad they give me a free platform to get on here and talk with all of you. Okay? So click on videos and you'll see the more recent videos on my channel. Bye.